This is a president that has delivered for the union, and he sees himself as a pro-union president. That term has been given to him by labor.
He's Mr. Union. He's Lunch Bucket Joe. I saw a member of Congress yesterday call him Lunch Pail Joe or something. I think he was aspiring to Lunch Bucket Joe, but he missed it by that much. Yeah, he's Mr. Union. That's why he pretended to cut a deal with the railroad unions before the midterm elections so they could lie to everyone. And remember, Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes praised Joe Biden for being so magnificent for averting a rail strike, which is back because it was all, it's information dominance, it's propaganda. It's not journalism. Politics, can be politics, but that's why the geniuses that founded our country in 1776 and not in 1609, as the Democrats and their rewriting of history like to pretend, see George Orwell in 1984. That's why they created the Fourth Estate as the ultimate check in our system of checks and balances. Unfortunately, it's been corrupted by filthy, the filthies. We'll just call them the filthies.
Mr. President, you have just averted a nationwide railroad strike that would have been crippling. How did you do that?
How did you do that? What a magnificent question, Scott Pelley. That's why you make millions of dollars a year and you have many lucite blocks and golden statuettes at home. How did you do that? Well, he didn't. It was fake. It was a fraud, but you participated in it. Or you were suckered by it, and you'll never say a word about that. The front page of the Washington Post today, House votes to force acceptance of rail deal. I like the use of the word force. Goal is to bypass strike as unions push Senate to support paid sick days. And now, I got to tell you that Congress intervenes to force acceptance. Democrats love forcing acceptance. They do a lot of that. And sometimes the people, with whom they force acceptance might steal your luggage. The luggage thieves in the Democrat Party. They had a couple of Democrats type up this piece on the front page. The House voted Wednesday to force a deal between freight rail carriers and unions, blocking a potential strike that threatened travel, supply chains, and the busy holiday shopping season. Joe Biden was talking, and he said that we are too dumb to know what supply chains were. We the American people. He said this. He was talking to a group of people, and he said, well, nobody knew what supply chains were.
10 years ago, how many knew what the hell a supply chain was?
I did.
No, I'm serious.
No, I'm serious. No, I'm not kidding. So I'm serious. I'm not kidding again. So here's what they do. It's, top-down government. They'll force it because they're not coming to terms, so the state will force it, which reminds me of Hung Kao. Hung Kao is a great American, wonderful guy. I'll call him a friend. That's right, because we've met and we text and things. And he was running for Congress in Virginia, and in the midterm elections, he was defeated by the corrupt Democrat machine and by dim-witted Democrats in Virginia who are pro-crime and all that stuff. Jennifer Wexton, who is just a horrible, terrible member of Congress, not a good American at all. Hung Kao, Naval Academy, U.S. naval officer, working with special operators, hot spots around the world, explosive ordnance guy. He's an extraordinary American, and he was running for the House of Representatives. But the propaganda machine won again, and they sent this half-wit back to Congress. But Hung Kao was on the Fox News channel this morning. I get up early, and I take in all the news, that's what I do. Hung Kao was on, and he was talking about the communists in China brutally beating down, and Joe Biden has nothing to say about it. And the White House, and they got that, Comrade Kirby now, formerly known as Cobble Kirby, now Comrade Kirby, who's playing footsie with the communists in China who are brutalizing their population. They're, yearning to breathe free. They want freedom because it's human nature to want freedom, and that's why our brilliant Constitution and our Bill of Rights are so important to humankind. And it's also why the Democrats urinate on them with such frequency. The First Amendment, your right to freely practice religion, and free speech. They're anti-free speech. Just ask Elon Musk. They're cracking down on him like Xi Jinping is cracking down on a billion people in communist China. Well, Hung Cao, his family he and his family were able to get out of Vietnam as the communists were rolling in, thanks in part to Jane Fonda and the Democrat Party in the United States of America. We're on the side of the communists and not on the side of freedom-loving people everywhere. And again, Comrade Kirby, with his, we don't really comment on protests around there. We don't support people striving for freedom around the world.
The president's not going to speak for protesters around the world.
He's not going to speak for protesters. What do you think? He's the president of the United States or something? The leader of the free world? He's not. He's a word that just occurred to me that I can't say on the radio.
We're not taking a side.
Yeah, they're not taking a side. They don't speak for protesters around the world. You're on your own. Huh? Because this is today's Democrat Party. They're the left. They're not liberals. They don't believe in liberalism. They believe in leftism.
Son, you're on your own.
Let's go to Hung Cao, who should be Congressman Hung Cao, and perhaps next time around. Here's Hung Cao on Fox News early this morning talking about what's going on in communist China because his family was able to get away from the commies.
Should we be surprised? I mean, look at in 1989. No one remembers the name of Wang Weilin. He's the young man that stood defiantly in front of those column tanks in Tiananmen Square. And he was taken away afterwards to re-education camp. Then fast forward 30 years later in Hong Kong, all the protests that occurred, and it was conveniently quieted after the COVID outbreak.
Just a coincidence, which didn't come from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It came from the poor, middle-class people, really no middle class, just the poor people with their wet market. That makes it sound appealing, doesn't it? Hey, where are you going for lunch? The wet market? Sounds good. Hung Cao talking about what the commies are doing with this lockdown. And the Democrats and Comrade Kirby can't say much about it because the Democrat Party here is the lockdown party here in the United States. Here's Hung Cao.
We also saw that the Chinese Communist Party were welding people into their homes or chaining them at the outbreak. And the West just heralded their efforts to control COVID. But, this is what communists do. I mean, I know communism very well. We escaped it. Both of my grandfathers were taken away by the communists. My mom's dad was murdered by them when she was 12 years old. And my dad's father was taken away by the communists, very early on when he was 13 years old and forced into labor. So this is what communists do.
This is what communists do. We all used to know this, but the re-education camp known as the American educational system and the academy, the university system in the United States, has erased the real history of the 20th century and replaced it with the radical left-wing, anti-American, anti-capitalist version of the history of the 20th century. And that's your Democrat Party. And if you'd like your little boy to be a little girl, the Democrat Party is there for you. If you'd like your little girl who used to be a boy to join the after-school Satan Club, the Democrat Party is there for you. And Hung Cao, and his last name is spelled C-A-O, if you're looking for him. Great American. So many immigrants are better Americans than so many native-born Americans. And Hung Cao is one of those. The T.J. Thomas Jefferson High School in Virginia, which the Democrats have ruined, I think, right? They've ruined it. And the Naval Academy in Annapolis, which the Democrats are working on ruining. And he made reference to the welding people into their building. There's video of these commies welding people into their building. And then there was a fire in the building, and they couldn't get out because the commies welded it shut. Might be an ADA non-compliance issue, or even OSHA should be called. But the commies, they just kill everybody, and they're fine. They're fine with that. And 10 people, maybe 11, burned alive in the building that the commies welded shut because there's a lockdown. Dun, dun, dun. And here's Hung Cow talking about Xi Jinping, ricochet rabbit.
All totalitarian regimes want the same thing. They want to remain in power. And so don't be surprised when he takes very draconian, even harder stances to quell these insurrections. He's going to do it, and he's going to do it fast and hard. They learned from Tiananmen. They renamed the PLA to be the PAP, right? The People's Armed Police. Same thugs, different uniforms, and they're going to do the same thing again.
That's what I've been saying the last couple of days, too. They're going to let this go. Oh, how's it going to go? I know how it's going to go. They're going to crush them. And Apple, I have 2 Apple products right in front of me right now. Apple is helping the communist crackdown by cutting off communications among the protesters and limiting access to airdrop and other means of communication. Apple is working hand in iron glove with the communist regime in China as they brutalize their people and crush a freedom movement. And President Joe Biden and the Biden administration are worse than silent on the issue. And Comrade Kirby is a disgrace to Western civilization and to the United States Navy, which he served for so many years. And he sits there and smiles. And, boy, you must really want that job to sacrifice your honor and integrity like that, Comrade Kirby. Maybe you should try telling the truth. You can find a job somewhere else. Doesn't pay that much. You got your Navy retirement. What a disgrace. And at the same time, of course, Elon Musk, who is the villain of the story, is Mr. Free Speech. He went way out of his way to facilitate free communications among the Ukrainians, right? And where else? He has facilitated freedom movements with the technology and his satellites and all that good stuff. Just extraordinary. And he's the villain, according to the Democrats and the American news media, for being too free speech in America. And I think we've got stuff on that today, too, because the media is anti-Elon Musk because he is pro-free speech. This is a disgraceful time for the Democrat Party and for, by extension, the news media, since they are an engorged extension of the body politic of the Democrats. Right about now, seasonal excitement, or maybe dread, is probably starting to settle in, especially if you're a small business owner. But it's not too late to get your holiday mailing and shipping under control with Stamps.com. Because Stamps.com is your one-stop shop for all your shipping and mailing needs. Get access to U.S. Postal Service and UPS services that you need to run your business right from your computer. From home, from your office, on the road. No lines, no traffic, no parking, no hassles. Not for you. And if you need a package pickup, you can easily schedule a package pickup through your Stamps.com dashboard. This holiday season, trade late nights for silent nights and get started today with Stamps.com. Here's what you need to do. Sign up with the promo code PLANTE, P-L-A-N-T-E. You get a free E for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts for you. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and enter the code PLANTE. I'm the code word. I'm a code. I'm a secret code. Save lots of money. It's great stuff. Yeah, listen to Hung Cow. He knows. His family knows. He comes with a message from the past that applies to the present. Listen.
There's only one Chris Plante. The Chris Plante Show.
If you are 65 or older, you know this. Watching your hard-earned dollars fly out the window on healthcare costs is frustrating. Well, here's something that can really help, and it's worth taking a minute to look into. MediShare 65 Plus. MediShare is a community of Christians who share each other's healthcare bills And it really is a community, too. People encourage and pray for each other. Well, Medishare 65 Plus is a low-cost option for those with Medicare Parts A and B, and it fills in the gaps where Medicare stops. It's a great way to fight inflation, too. You can lock in one low monthly price for up to 10 years. And it's easy. You can use any Medicare-approved doctor or get 24/7 telehealth access from the comfort of your home. Very worth looking into during Medicare open enrollment, which ends December 7th. If you join right now, your second month share will be free. So don't miss this chance. Call 800-PSALM-16. That's 800-PSALM-16. 800-PSALM-16.
The World Tournament of Soccer happening in Qatar is finally here. And with all the weird kickoff times and all the other sports happening simultaneously, it can be kind of hard to keep up. So to make sure you're up to speed, be sure to listen to Qatar Kick Around for the daily wrap-up of all the action from the tournament. From the group stage all the way to the final, Andy, Lars, and Peter are here for you with recaps and opinions of what happened that day in Qatar. Everything can be found at thekickaround.com, the Cumulus Podcast channel on YouTube, or wherever you listen.
As I have mentioned, one of the things we're doing today is helping to raise money for the great people at the Fisher House Foundation. We do it a couple days a year, and today and tomorrow are those days this year. The phone number is 888-294-8560 to give generously. I ask every year, someone should give a $1 million gift. I said I'll come over and I'll cut your lawn. Cut your lawn. If you're not nearby, maybe I'll, come over and bring you a dinner. For a $1 million, a lot of people in America has been very, very good to many people. And right now on the phone, we have Christy Wilcox, who is now working for Fisher House, but first encountered Fisher House by staying at a Fisher House in Pittsburgh, PA, while your father was receiving treatment, right, Christy?
Hey, Chris. Nice to talk to you today. Yeah, my dad was drafted to the Army way back when, but he had kidney and colon cancer back in 2015, and we stayed at the Pittsburgh Fisher House when he was getting surgery and operated on at the VA there. And it was quite, when you're going through that kind of a situation, being there close to your family member is a pretty big deal. And it was very traumatic, at the time. But, it was also very, it was, all I can say is it was so eye-opening to me because I spent my career in broadcast TV. But after my experience at Fisher House, it was like, I need to do something Fisher House related.
Wow.
And so, you're there watching other families go through their own situations. And I just thought, how fortunate are we to have this resource? And it was a crucial time for me to be there for my family and just see how blessed we are.
That's exactly right. They're just dazzling. The Fisher House people are so dazzling. And now you are one of them.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I've been with the Fisher House for about 2 years, and Chris, I can't even tell you the stories that I cover here at Fisher House and the resiliency that you see many of these families go through. I mean, I talk to Gold Star sister, wife, father, and, I try to understand their journey and listen to them. But the most impactful thing is how they just move forward in faith, and they're just so positive and resilient for, everything that they've been through. I mean, a lot of times you hear how service members are broken, but honestly, I don't see it that way at all. I mean, these people will inspire you, they'll motivate you, and pick up a copy of our Patriot magazine. I mean, it's a great way of seeing how amazing these people are.
And you make videos now. You say you come from broadcast TV. Is it television news, your background?
Yeah, television news was my background for many, many years, and I thought I was going to do it forever. But then few years back, I just thought, it's time for me to look into doing other things, and I knew this was just where I belonged, and it's just amazing to be able to be a part of this mission and see the type of impact we can have.
That is an extraordinary story, and God bless you and all of the people of Fisher House. And the phone number, thank you so much, Christy, for calling in. The phone number is 888-294-8560.
This is the Chris Plante Show.
Yes. I need to tweak a thing or two here, a correction or two. We were watching CNN. CNN is going through layoffs today and yesterday and tomorrow. Tomorrow is apparently the big day of layoffs. But CNN was telling us they had a picture of dinner being served at the White House with the Maine lobsters and the big, tall, white chef's hats and things, talking about, and Macron, the Frenchy French. They're having big conflicts with the French, by the way, because the Democrats, they're bad at everything. Joe Biden, Mr. Diplomacy, was going to restore our standing in the world. The French president is here, Macron and Cheese, and he, this is the country with which we have had the longest diplomatic relationship. They were the first country to send an ambassador. They were the first country to which we sent an ambassador. So our diplomatic relations go back with France longer than with any other country. And we were still at war with Britain for a long, long time and all that, and they were helping us in their war against Britain. But the Biden administration screwed over the French because he poached a submarine contract that they had struck, a hard-fought deal with Australia. France was going to build Australia's submarines, and the Biden administration stole the contract, and the French were so furious that they withdrew their ambassador to the United States for the first time in history. And now the French are furious with us because of Joe Biden's environmental policies, and apparently the French think that we should be buying more of their stuff and less of our own stuff. And so the French are furious again. But we were looking at the CNN coverage, and they showed these photographs, and it looked like the state dinner was last night, and talking about the lobsters and Maine and all this stuff. The state dinner is tonight, as I had suggested early on, and not last night. And it was Biden today, not last night, talking about the Marquis de Sade. Not the Marquis de Sade, not really, but the Marquis of Queensberry, not the Marquis of Queensberry, but the Marquis de Lafayette. And Joe Biden thinks his name is Marcus de Lafayette.
My friend and I were talking. France is our oldest ally, our unwavering partner in freedom's cause. From the spirit of Marcus de Lafayette, who helped secure the success of our revolution.
Thanks, Marcus. Yeah, the Marcus Lafayette. That's our president. France withdrew their ambassador. Now they're furious again, but they're going to have state dinner. And what do they have, like yesterday's lobster? I guess. They poach it, because CNN said they were poaching the lobster, but the dinner's tonight. That's not very fresh. I don't think I like that. Makes me think about lobster, though, because, it's real good.
Lobster with caviar.
Oh, and they've got the caviar, too. You can't have your lobster without your caviar. What's the matter with you, anyway?
At least the economy's good.
Yeah, right. And the economy's good at the White House because it's our money. Yeah, this guy is really something. Yes, he is. Let's go back to soundbite number 2, because Joe Biden, we had him going 29 times, saying he's not kidding, he's not joking. Then he not kidding, not joking last night. Then he's not kidding, not joking this morning. Every time he says that, he's kidding or he's joking. Or he's lying, or he's got it wrong, one way or the other. Well, let's go to Joe Biden yesterday with the Native American nations and pandering and sucking up and making things up all over the place.
Respect for tribes as nations and treaties as law. Respect for...
It's being
heckled. Beg your pardon? I thought you said no.
Oh, don't.
I was getting a little worried. I thought somebody said no.
He was getting a little worried. He was getting ready. No. And Biden, no. So no, they don't respect the laws. What? And he decided, because he heard a noise from the crowd, he'd stop and start having a conversation in the middle of what is theoretically a presidential speech, because amazingly, he's the president of the United States. Boy, isn't that amazing? And he claimed that he's the best president ever, and he's done more than anybody. But let's go to number 4. Always just like with the French, it's about the climate and the environment. And Macron and the French are very upset because he said, we don't have audio. Oh, no, we do. We have audio of the Frenchy French being very upset through a translator. They got a lady translator because when you're a Frenchman, really, what's the difference? And was he wearing a dress or anything like that, like so many Biden administration officials? Yeah, the coat on, might have had a skirt or dress on underneath. So, Macron today at the White House through a translator. And listen to this. He's their biggest concerns. And listen to what fascists they are. Keeping in mind that environmentalism here, as in Europe, they call the radical environmentalists, they call them watermelons because they're green on the outside, but they're red on the inside, right? And so he's talking about the climate, the weather. Hey, the weather's kooky, isn't it? He's talking about disinformation, which means the truth that they don't want you to know. They talk about hate speech, which is anything anybody else says. And that these are the first steps, and we've already seen these first steps, to trampling your free speech rights. And that's why you don't see him speaking up about what's going on in China, because they're halfway there themselves, at least. And they know that that's their eventual destination, the lockdowns, the control over speech, shutting down access, as Apple is helping with, left-wing billionaires at Apple, helping the communists trample the free speech rights of the slave labor that makes their phones. Did you see the video yesterday? We talked about it yesterday, but video came out of the commies beating the hell out of people at the Apple factory, because, they get back. This is what slavery is. Communism is slavery. Slavery is communism. Welcome to the 21st century. And so he's talking about relativism, because the French, Jean-Paul Sartre, you got to circle your navel at least once a day. So here's the Frenchy French.
Our democracies on both sides of the ocean are being shaken by the same doubts as to our ability to be sufficiently strong and effective when it comes to the challenges we share. Those of the climate, geopolitics, and technology. They're in doubt in the face of relativism, hate speech, false information, and today's fears.
Did you catch that? That's, first of all, I think that actually could be a Frenchman. It's difficult to say. Democracy, it's the democracy under threat. The New York Times took a poll with their university polling partner about the threats to democracy on the lead up to, because it was a Democrat Party talking point on the lead up to the midterm elections. So the New York Times, got their shoulder behind the Democrat Party wheel, the neo-fascist wheel. And, they don't believe in free speech, and that's why they're trying to crush Elon Musk, the African that saved the world, right? And he's going to save the United States from itself, hopefully. But said democracy, the New York Times found that the number one threat to democracy in the United States, according to their poll, the American people believe, and it's 84% of us believe that, asked about threats to democracy, 84% of us said the news media is the number one threat to our democracy. All right? 59% said a major threat, 25% saying a minor threat to our democracy, total of 84% of us saying that the news media is the number one threat to our democracy. The number two threat to our democracy in this New York Times poll was the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party isn't. And this Frenchy French says the threat to our democracy, climate. Really? The weather is a threat to our democracy? That is veiled fascism. Geopolitics, technology, disinformation, hate speech, and relativism went off the French rails over there, right? Because they're French. What can you say? That's what they do. Didn't Macron marry a school teacher or something like that? His, not a school teacher. It was He was the student. She was the school teacher. In the United States, that'd get you a prison sentence. In France, you become first lady. I'm not sure which is the right solution as a, young boy who had a crush on Miss Sheehan in the 3rd grade, but never mind that. All right, so Joe Biden, back to Joe Biden with the Native American, the tribes yesterday. And again, it's the weather. It's the weather. The Native Americans have survived for, millennia here in North America after crossing the land bridge from Asia. And now the Democrats are going to make the weather better for them.
And, as all of you know, there are tribal communities at risk of being washed away by superstorms, rising sea levels, and wildfires raging.
Sea levels.
I've flown over literally several thousand acres of the storms and the fires that have been, and the West in particular.
He's flown over the storms.
And also down in the Southwest.
Also down in the Southwest.
And it's devastating.
It's devastating. Sea levels. And Superstorm Sandy might, the New Jersey Native Americans were in big trouble with their houses in Mantoloking on the beach and on the Bayside, too. Let's not forget about the Bayside mansions in Mantoloking with Superstorm Sandy. And
Superstorm Sandy.
And there he is. And he wants his chakra released. And sea levels, the rising sea levels. The propaganda machine of the Democrat Party is so amazing. And then, guess who else weighed in on the weather? Kamala. We should write a Kamala song, don't you think? Kamala was there, and she wanted to talk about the weather, too.
Our administration is also fighting for climate and environmental justice.
Justice.
Native communities are on the front line of the fight against the climate crisis.
Front line of the fight against the climate.
Land your tribes have long called home are increasingly being threatened by wildfire, drought, and sea level rise.
Land are.
And across America, Native communities are disproportionately impacted by toxic air and water pollution.
They love the race card in everything. The other day, the great story was that daylight saving time disproportionately impacts people of color. Daylight saving time disproportionately impacts people of color. POC, people of color. I wonder if they could be bigger racists or bigger fools, bigger buffoons. But the thing is, the educational system has collapsed in the United States. So they've got enough people believing this propaganda. And the Frenchy French, who brought his school teacher, with whom he's, I'll just say they're still dating. And, wow, man. Elizabeth Warren, you know her, Pocahontas. She's a Native American.
My papa had high cheekbones, like all of the Indians do.
So she's going to be disproportionately impacted by Superstorm Sandy and rising sea levels, too. And, if you're so concerned about rising sea levels, why did Barack Obama buy an oceanfront estate for $14 million in Martha's Vineyard? And why did he buy another? How many millions did he pay for the Hawaii estate? Because he bought Robin's Nest, the Hawaii oceanfront estate from the TV show Magnum P.I., where Higgins was there. You know that Higgins was in Blazing Saddles, too? Higgins was in Blazing Saddles. And, Magnum P.I., good old, what's his name, Tom Selleck. And Obama bought that house and bulldozed it, tore it down, destroyed it. Come on, it was like, everybody's childhood dream to buy the house from Magnum P.I. someday grew up, and he did. He went into politics, and, so you become really, really rich if you're good at it.
I know they bought the house for $8.5 million, but I don't know how much the renovation cost.
Yeah, I bought the house for $8.5 million. That was what I was thinking, $8 million, and then they, it cost a bunch of money to tear it down, and I think they're still building. Because it's, like Superstorm Sandy. It's like it's a massive house. It's an extraordinary, giant oceanfront Hawaiian villa. It was a beautiful place. I would have been happy with that, but I'm probably not as picky as, these men of the people. They're going to need more. Man, oh, man. I'm telling you, What about Sister Pauline? What about her? All right, we are, today is Fisher House Day, and tomorrow Fisher House Day as well. And how much do we have? I think we were at more than $157,000 the last time I looked. But today is Fisher House Day. And the number, because I know you want to give generously, is 888-294-8560.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
And we have returned. Today we're helping our friends at Fisher House to raise some dollars for their great patriotic and noble cause. The phone number to contribute generously. Still looking for that $1 million donation. The phone number is 888-294-8560. 888-294-8560. Great many very generous people have contributed today. And we are, I think we're above $160,000 now. But we're looking for, that million. America has been very good. Right now, on the telephone, we've got my friend and the president of the Fisher House Foundation, Dave Coker, with whom I've been working for so many years now, and just the greatest guy in the world. Dave, thanks for being here, buddy.
Merry Christmas, and thanks for this opportunity.
You bet your bottom dollar. Listen, a lot of people are thinking, hey, we're not at war anymore. We had that tragic drawdown under Biden from Afghanistan. The war in Iraq, they're just killing each other now. Why Fisher House?
Well, life is always going to happen. We've got people who are still dealing with Agent Orange, burn pits, and then cancer. When you get that call and you learn that a loved one is injured or ill, you want two things. You want the best medical care and you want to be there. The VA and military healthcare systems are two of the best in the world. Having a place for the families to stay is a little bit more of a challenge. And so we focus on solving that problem.
Yeah, that's right. And it's like we may be in this hopefully more than a lull right now. But the reality is that Fisher House, which was stood up in response to wartime needs, the VA and military healthcare system has always had, before Fisher House came along, there's always been a gap in the care that we provide to our troops and families. And again, you're a Vietnam veteran, you've got cancer, you're getting your health care through the VA system, your family lives across the country, and Fisher House is there for you.
We've learned a lot from the people who've graced our houses. I mean, when the program started in 1990, healthcare was so different. If you needed care, it was generally done as an inpatient in the hospital. And nowadays, you may need care for a few weeks, but your inpatient stay may only be for a couple of days. I've had the chance up in Togus, Maine, to visit with a daughter who had been estranged from her father, but had a chance to reconnect during his final days because there was a Fisher House where she could support. I remember going to Chicago, and there was a young lady, I assumed she was there to support her father, and as I was talking to her, she goes, "No, I'm here to support my husband." He had an incident when he was attending basic training that blinded him. And as she told me more of the story, her mom said, "Hey, now I can annul the wedding." She said, "No, I'm in this." He was learning how to go hiking and rock climbing with the family, and it was the first time they were going to see him in a couple of years.
Fisher House, my friends. Dave Coker, the president of Fisher House and a proud American veteran. 888-294-8560. Thank you, David. See you soon.